Instagram date gone wrong. It was supposed to be a normal first date. For nearly a month, a young woman and a young man had been talking through Instagram. Their conversation started with a simple follow request and quickly turned into daily chats. They exchanged jokes, shared photos from their lives, and spent hours messaging each other late into the night. From the woman's perspective, the man seemed friendly, interesting, and harmless. Although some of his messages were unusual, she assumed he was simply creative and liked talking about strange ideas. Eventually, the man suggested that they meet in person. After thinking about it for several days, the woman agreed. They chose a public location near a construction site where plenty of people would be around. It seemed like a safe place for a first meeting. On the afternoon of the date, the weather was warm and clear. Construction workers were busy operating equipment and moving materials around the site. The woman arrived first and waited near the sidewalk. A few minutes later, the man appeared. At first, everything seemed perfectly normal. The two greeted each other and began talking as they walked. The conversation flowed easily. They discussed social media, movies, music, and their daily lives. The woman felt relieved. Meeting someone from the internet can be uncomfortable, but so far nothing seemed wrong. After about 20 minutes, however, the man began acting differently. He would suddenly stop talking and stare into the distance. Several times he looked around as if he expected someone to be watching him. When the woman asked if everything was okay, he smiled and said that he was just paying attention to details. The answer seemed odd, but she didn't think much about it. As they continued walking, the man's comments became stranger. He started talking about simulations and alternate realities. At first, the woman assumed he was discussing a movie or a video game, but the more he talked, the more she realized he was serious. The world isn't what people think it is, he told her. What do you mean? She asked. He pointed toward several construction workers nearby. They're not really workers, he said quietly. They're actors. The woman laughed nervously, expecting him to laugh too. Instead, he remained completely serious. He explained that he believed the world around him was part of a giant simulation. According to him, random strangers were secretly performers following a script. He claimed that hidden cameras were recording everything. The woman felt increasingly uncomfortable. She attempted to change the subject, but the man kept returning to the same ideas. Every sound, every person, and every vehicle seemed to have a special meaning in his mind. Meanwhile, several construction workers had begun noticing the pair. One worker observed the man pacing back and forth while speaking loudly. Another heard him talking about simulations and actors. The workers exchanged concerned looks. As time passed, the man's behavior became more unpredictable. He started pointing at people and claiming that he recognized them from previous scenes. He insisted that events around him were being directed by unseen producers. The woman no longer felt safe. She tried to end the date politely, but the man seemed distracted by his own thoughts. He continued speaking rapidly, jumping from one topic to another. Eventually, one construction worker decided that something was wrong. Concerned that the situation could become dangerous, he contacted law enforcement and explained what he was seeing. A short time later, police officers arrived. The officers approached carefully and immediately noticed that the situation was unusual. One officer began speaking with the woman, while another watched the man from a distance. The woman explained that she had met him on Instagram and that this was their first date. She described how his behavior had gradually become stranger during the afternoon. The officers listened carefully. While they were speaking with her, the man suddenly became agitated. He stared directly at one of the police cruisers. Then, without warning, he started running. The officers immediately shouted for him to stop. Instead of stopping, the man sprinted toward the patrol vehicle and jumped onto the front of it. Within seconds, he had climbed onto the hood. Construction workers watched in disbelief. The woman covered her mouth in shock. Standing on top of the police cruiser, the man raised his arms and shouted, "This is part of the simulation," he yelled. Officers repeatedly ordered him to get down. "Get down now." The man ignored them. He claimed that the police officers were actors. He insisted that the construction workers were actors, According to him, everyone present was participating in an elaborate production. The officers remained calm despite the bizarre situation. They understood that rushing the man could make things worse. Instead, they attempted to de-escalate the situation through conversation. One officer spoke in a steady voice. "You're not in danger. Come down from the vehicle and talk with us." The man shook his head. "No, this isn't real." For several minutes, the officers continued trying to reason with him. Traffic slowed as passing drivers noticed the scene. More people gathered nearby. The longer the situation continued, the greater the safety risk became. Eventually, officers warned the man that he could be tased if he refused to comply. The warning appeared to get his attention. For the first time, he hesitated. The officers continued speaking calmly, giving him every opportunity to cooperate voluntarily. Finally, after several tense moments, the man slowly climbed down from the cruiser. The officers quickly secured him without causing injury. A sense of relief spread through the crowd. The most dangerous part of the incident was finally over. With the man detained, officers continued their investigation. The answers they received were confusing. When asked basic questions, the man often responded with references to social media usernames. He repeatedly spoke about online identities and hidden meanings. At one point, he told officers that his username was his real-life identity. "That's my real-life username," he insisted. The statement only added to the confusion. Meanwhile, officers continued interviewing witnesses. The construction workers described the man's strange behavior from earlier in the afternoon. Their accounts matched what the woman had reported. The woman explained that she had expected a normal date. She never imagined the afternoon would end with police intervention. According to her, the man had gradually become convinced that everything around him was part of a performance. The officers compared witness statements and reviewed the events that had taken place. A clear picture began to emerge. There was no movie. There was no simulation. There were no actors secretly following a script. The situation existed entirely in the man's perception. His actions had created a public disturbance and forced officers to intervene for the safety of everyone involved. After gathering the necessary information, officers informed the man that he was being taken into custody. The woman watched as police completed their investigation. What had started as a simple Instagram date had turned into one of the strangest experiences of her life. She had expected conversation, laughter, and the possibility of a new relationship. Instead, she found herself standing beside police officers while the man she had come to meet claimed that reality itself was fake. For the officers, the incident served as another reminder that no call is ever truly routine. A situation that initially appeared to be a simple welfare concern had rapidly transformed into a complicated and unpredictable event. For the construction workers, it was a day they would talk about for a long time. And for everyone involved, it was a powerful reminder that sometimes reality can be stranger than anything people see in movies, television shows, or social media. What began with a message on Instagram ended with flashing police lights, witness statements, a man standing on top of a patrol car, and a bizarre investigation into a reality that existed only in his mind. It was a first date that nobody would ever forget.